So I want to start with a show of hands. How many of you have seen something like this before? Okay, that's actually more than I expected. Well, the reason I bring this up is because this is where most buildings go when we're done with them. And a lot of us don't actually get directly exposed to that outcome, right? And if you're not aware of the scale of this issue, in 2009, the EPA estimated that we were throwing away 170 million tons of building materials every year. Now that figure has jumped to 600 million tons. So in just a decade, it's more than 3 times what it was back then. It may be hard to imagine what 600 million tons looks like. To put this in perspective, it's enough material to fill the entire Empire State Building 2,500 times. As Ron mentioned, earlier in my career, I was an architect at Perkins & Will, and this is where I worked in Atlanta, Georgia. Before Perkins & Will purchased and renovated this building, it was filled with valuable materials, and I couldn't stand the thought of putting all of that into a landfill. So I organized an effort, as he mentioned, to salvage and donate 62 tons of material to 19 organizations, and we saved them almost $400,000. But this is the thing, seeing how much of a positive impact those materials could have in my community opened my eyes. It changed my perspective, and it changed the course of my life. I started to work with others in Atlanta who wanted to create a better way to manage these resources. In 2011, we found this beautiful warehouse, 70,000 square feet, 100-year-old, in a very underinvested part of our city, and we started a reuse organization called Life Cycle Building Center, or LBC. Over the past 11 years with LBC, I've seen how the materials that we so casually throw away can actually help make our communities more sustainable, more equitable, and more resilient. But this is only possible if we can change the label of waste that we typically apply to these materials. Today, I will be showing you 3 examples that show what can happen when we transform the label of waste into resources. The first example is the Candida Building for Innovative Sustainable Design at Georgia Tech, which was built by Skanska. This net positive project is the most environmentally advanced education and research building ever constructed in the southeastern US, and it achieved Living Building Challenge certification in 2021. The Living Building Challenge standard requires that reclaimed building materials be used, and this project uses 28 different types of salvage materials. So for example, Georgia Tech looked at their own campus for opportunities. And these are stair treads for the monumental stair in the space. These were actually salvaged from one of their own buildings, Tech Tower, that was constructed in 1888, and now this history lives on in the Candida project. They also salvaged materials from their alumni house. They took off slate roofing tiles, and they remade them into wall tiles for all of the restrooms. And this is one of my favorite stories from this project, because it exemplifies a mantra that the team shared throughout the entire course of it. Finding solutions that can accomplish multiple goals at once. The project team came up with an idea of using reclaimed 2x4s as the spacers for all of the nail-laminated timber decking panels at the upper floor and roof structures. For a year, Life Cycle Building Center salvaged 2x4 lumber from TV and film productions. But when Skanska could only find one subcontractor who was willing to bid out this scope, which was $1.2 million on a $25 million project, they decided to actually build the panels themselves with their own in-house team. Next, Skanska engaged with Georgia Works, which is a nonprofit in Atlanta that provides job training opportunities for men who are overcoming homelessness or prior incarceration. 6 men were hired to construct the 489 panels, with one of them later hired into a full-time construction job. What I love about this story also is that this one creative design solution enabled them to meet 3 of the Living Building Challenge goals. Sourcing reclaimed materials locally helped lower the project's carbon impact and also helped achieve the materials goal. Exposing the natural wood structural system contributed to the beauty goal. And providing workforce training opportunities helped meet the equity goal. This creative solution also saved the project money. Skanska's cost to build these panels was 25% of that original bid. They did it for $300,000. This next example shows how reusing materials creates economic opportunities and also helps make our cities more livable and equitable. In Atlanta, our city is seeking to address inequity by building or preserving 20,000 affordable housing units by 2030. Lifecycle Building Center is supporting that goal by salvaging materials from existing homes in Atlanta and donating them to nonprofits who are building affordable housing. By reusing materials that already exist, nonprofits can significantly lower their construction costs. This is an example of one of the projects we did with a nonprofit Atlanta Land Trust, where we provided kitchen cabinets, plumbing fixtures, and doors. These are materials that would have been wasted, but instead, they are helping nonprofits like Atlanta Land Trust build more affordable units with the dollars that they have available. Now we are working to scale this up with nonprofits like Grove Park Foundation. They are seeking to construct 950 affordable units over the next several years. In order to support Grove Park, we are identifying sources to provide much larger volumes of reclaimed materials. And Georgia's film industry is once again proving to be a key partner. One of the state's largest film studios has invited us to reclaim materials from their TV and film productions to be reused in affordable housing projects. But this is only possible if we can change that label of waste and start seeing these materials as resources instead of trash that we need to just get rid of. The last example I want to share with you today talks about conditions that are really challenging in a lot of our cities. A lot of dilapidated homes like this exist, and often we have found that seniors are stuck living in substandard conditions because their income is so limited. In Atlanta, we have a lot of nonprofits who are working to help improve living conditions for these senior residents. This is Charles Jackson. He is a retired Army veteran and senior homeowner that lives near LBC. When we first met Charles in 2020, he was going through a really tough time. He wanted to bring his mother back home to live with him after several years, but their home was in such poor condition that that was not possible. There was no kitchen in their home. So Lifecycle Building Center partnered with another nonprofit, Rebuilding Together Atlanta, to help give Charles the kitchen he needed. We provided kitchen cabinet sets, a kitchen sink, appliances, all the tile for the floors, the counters, and the walls. And we brought in one of our partners, DPR Construction, to install all of the materials. Charles was overjoyed because we were able to put this kitchen in time for him to bring his mother back home to celebrate Christmas with him that year. Our challenge now is to scale all of this up. And we can do this together by changing the label of waste into resources. One step that you can do is you can find reuse organizations near you. In the US, we have the Habitat for Humanity Restore Network with over 1,000 locations. And you can also connect with members of Build Reuse, which is a national nonprofit that helps communities turn construction and demolition waste into local resources. If you're involved in demolition projects, you can require that a reuse assessment be performed, and you can set minimum thresholds for the amount of material that needs to be salvaged. You can also look for opportunities to reuse materials or even entire buildings in your design projects. Even better, you can design buildings to be disassembled later so their components can be more easily reused. If you do not have a reuse organization near you, you could consider starting one of your own. Lifecycle Building Center is partnering with Build Reuse Now to create a Reuse for Communities toolkit to help make that process much easier. I want to close with a vision for the future. This is the online store for Pittsburgh's Reuse Center, Construction Junction. They are one of many organizations that are working to build a future where all usable materials can be cataloged and harvested from buildings before they are demolished. It's a future where existing buildings become the palette from which we can select materials to reuse. It's a future where we can actually trace the history and follow where materials came from and follow them into their next life. It's a future with a skilled workforce capable of capturing all of these valuable resources where they can gain a living wage career while also helping communities access these materials at an affordable cost. I invite you to join us in building this future where we value our material resources and we recognize their ability to help sustain our communities and our planet. Thank you.